every state that you live in has a law which says that you're required to go to school from the age of 5 or 6 to 18 or 19. And that's why truancy laws are created to prevent crime in every state that you live in. Good evening and welcome to Give Me a Break. I'm Jonathan Carmody. Throughout the 8 years of the broadcast, we've been focusing in on truancy. For those who don't know what truancy is, if you have 7 or more unexcused absences, that qualifies you as truancy. How does it work? Well, if there's unexcused absences, like you had to feed the dogs in the morning, transportation issues, those are unexcused absences. That's why schools have created truancy court to combat crime here in every state you live in. But now Texas is deciding to create more bills combating truancy. Now, back in 2015, truancy was decriminalized because of what the Justice Department has looked at. But now let's take a look at what's going on here in Texas with truancy.
Lawmakers are looking to tackle the issue of truancy in Texas schools, what they hope the new bills will do when it comes to getting kids back to class. So as we continue to follow that breaking news from this morning, Harris County Sheriff's Office are still looking for the person or people who shot a high schooler in West Harris County. Investigators say 2 groups of people gathered at Sandy Bay Lane and Stockfield Lane around 9 last night. Sheriff's deputies say something led up to at least one person pulling out a gun and firing, hitting and killing the teen. Investigators say the teen lived in the neighborhood. Sheriff's deputies say they are now looking for witnesses, and so far, no suspects have been named. Now, Texas lawmakers are looking to take aim at truant and chronically absent students this legislative session, hoping to get them back into the classroom. At least 8 bills have been filed in the House and Senate that address truancy and chronic absenteeism. The bills call for better data collection regarding students missing class. They also propose developing guidelines to provide targeted services for those children, and in some cases, increasing penalties for parents who contribute to this problem. Well, the reason for the push is because truancy and chronic absenteeism can be a sign of a deeper problem and can lead to lifelong struggles.
I think when you see absenteeism and truancy early on, you sort of get these kids that sort of fall behind academically. When you get into middle school and high school, it's much worse though. Then these are kids that are bound to be dropouts. These are kids that are going to be part of a society that can't find a job, that have a harder time finding a job, that aren't going to college.
KPRC2 Investigates recently found that more than 100 Texas school districts report 0 state-required truancy prevention measures. You can learn more about our findings and parents' legal obligations at click2houston.com. Just search truancy.
Which is exactly what I'm going to do right now. Because really, it's the first time we've ever combated truancy like this. In our future second look, we're going to look into one person who targets kids and was unaware of the truancy laws here in Texas. And there's data there that can show what has been going on. According to Click2 Houston, Houston ISD failed to report truancy prevention to the TEA over 4 years despite absences, according to what the data shows. Look at this. Here's a chart that reflects data from 2020 to the last school year. The district is Houston ISD, unexcused absence, over 86,000 unexcused absences. Reminder, This was during the pandemic. Truancy prevention 0. Truancy complaints 0. 2020 and 2022, 10,000. Same thing here. 76,801, no prevention measures. 65,000, no prevention measures during 2022 school year. Last school year, 63,000, none reported. And a lot of people say, well, following this Uvalde school shooting, lawmakers say truancy needs a reset. According to this article, following Uvalde mass shooting, lawmakers say truancy laws need to be a reset. This was a year during the 1-year anniversary of the shooting. And this is following the mass shooting. We'll have a look at that article when we return. Still ahead, stop snitching. Anderson Cooper on the slang of snitching and what it means. Please stay with us. Truancy is always on the rise. Stricter states like Iowa make it very, very tough for kids who are being truant. And throughout the 8 years, like I said in the beginning of the broadcast, we have focused in on kids who are being truant. And one of the reasons that is because of bullying. Other reasons are unexcused reasons. But with the shooting in Uvalde happening almost 3 years ago, everyone's going to go ahead and hit the reset button. The state's going to hit a reset button on truancy. The TEA, according to the TEA, they were combined over 130 cases of truancy last school year for Houston, Katy, Cypher, Galveston, Conroe, Fort Bend, and Spring school districts. And this was the bill as a result from the state senator Paul Betancourt from District 7. It would require school districts to adopt attendance policies that address truancy and require meetings between parents and guardians and administrators. If a child is truant and if the parent doesn't show up for the meeting, the school officials can visit the child's home to determine what is preventing the child from attending class. State law defines truancy as a student who has 10 or more unexcused absences during a 6-month period. However, the state has also mandated school notify parents and implement truancy prevention measures. The student has 3 or more unexcused absences during a 4-week period. The bill that Betancourt is presenting would bring more consistency to how truancy is addressed by districts without penalizing students who miss class because of problems at home or economic hardships. Lawmakers screened the truancy laws afterwards learned that the Uvalde school shooter missed more than 100 days of school, had been voluntarily withdrawn from the district, and there was no clear record of whether anyone ever visited his home or found out why he was missing class. This was all because of what happened. This is all because of the issue. And what are schools facing when it comes to chronically truant students? Probably facing nothing. This was back in November 2022. This was the final admission from August of 2017. It was it's a 23-page document. Compulsory attendance. This is House Bill 2398. This is all under House Bill 2398. It states, quote, children ages 16 to 17 are required to attend school, excludes students who are 18 years of age, Referral to truancy court is prohibited for students attending school after the 18th birthday. But this is going into the 2015-20 school year. Children ages 6 to 18 are required to attend school. This bill adds 18 rules to compulsory attendance requirements. Referral to truancy court is prohibited for students attending school after the 19th birthday. But according to Judge John Payton, he said if you are filed on a court order during the duration of your 19th birthday, it doesn't expire because the child turns 19. It's called remedial orders. It's basically a court order for your child to make sure that he or she's going to school. That's not just one of them. That's what truancy court does. As we talked about, you need to make sure your child's going to school. Otherwise, you will be there along. You and your child will be there, like you would dress for church, in a shirt and a tie. What I want to do right now is play you an example of truancy court. I think this is from one of the parents who documented There it is. Take a look at this.
2014, May 12th. It's about 8:30 in the morning. Dallas, Fort Worth. We are on our way. We're in the school zone. And we are on our way to truancy court. Yay!
Can't we get in trouble from using this in the school zone, or is it just a driver?
So we're dressed real nice, so the judge will be like, oh, these people are dressed real nice. They're innocent. But probably not. So, what happened was, long story short, before you get to the judgments, Oscar, which you guys probably don't even know who that is, my stepson, Mama Marie's son, our son, has been late. The school actually messed up with a lot of his dates with unexcused absences. They told us it was corrected, but obviously it wasn't.
Send us to court anyway.
And then we got a letter talking about you got to go to truancy court. Well, we approached the school about it. The lady, since they're a very ghetto school and they don't know what they're talking about, she was like, oops, my bad, kind of thing. So now we actually got to go to the court and explain this to the judge. Yeah, now we got to go to court and plead our case and try not to pay fines and go to jail. This is so stupid. But it is what it is. And court literally starts like in 10 minutes and we are here pretty much.
Oh, I thought you were going to say we're lost.
We actually came previously,
Pled not guilty.
Yeah,
they made us
pled
come
not
back.
guilty. So they're like, all right, well, you can come back and actually have a trial. Why just have a trial with the jury and like 2 lawyers?
I know.
Witnesses?
Like I have to. I don't know. That's weird. Like there's a lot of people here today though.
It's the same class.
I thought there was a lot more open space.
Man, there's like a bunch of people that was so pissed off. It's gonna be like, that's the reason why we came back. We were here for so long. I was thinking back too, like, God, we should just play.
I know,
Because the first time it was only like, they were like, $180.
I hope it's not more than
But
that.
we were like, we're not guilty, so we're not paying $180. We'll come back and fight it.
Now we're gonna be guilty with like $500 fine or something.
The wait here is so stupid that I'd rather just pay the $180.
Alright.
Anyway, we'll get back to y'all. I'll let you know the verdict. This lady brought a bag, so she is official. This lady is walking with a bunch of folders, so she is also official. She is the real deal. Wait, we got here. Okay, we got here before 8 o'clock in the morning. And then that guy's checking out the trainer. Look at that pervert right there. He's looking at her. She'll punch him in the goatee. Look at these guys walking by. You can tell he won. He got a white lawyer with a very professional bag, and he has glasses. You know that guy's a good lawyer. Very good lawyer. They both came out smiling. They won. This is a bunch of crap. This is a whole bunch of crap. But it is what it is.
How do you get rid of that face?
Side note, how do you get rid of fat face? I think that's how you get fat face. Let's get in the car. Alright, so I'm going across the street while Katrina's waiting. Of course, they're gonna take forever like they did last time. I'm gonna go get us some drinks. Ever wonder why beef jerky is so damn expensive? Golly, but I'm still gonna buy it because it's that damn good. I say like only 182, but really that's.
Well, the fine was only $100, but the court cost was $84.
Which is
whatever.
bullshit, but whatever.
So they make their money.
Yep. If you go, you're gonna be there for at least 2.5, 3 hours at least. The first time we were here for like 4 hours. This time we're here for about 2.5 hours. It's all a bunch of crap because it's unorganized and they repeat themselves over and over and over. And,
I think the school and the court like have an agreement
yeah.
to like
It's like the
screw over
DMV.
everybody they can possible.
So we decided to suck it up and just pay the 182 or whatever we gotta pay. So they give you about a month to pay it. If you don't, they add like $25 onto it if it's late. And if you keep going back, the maximum amount they can fine you is $500. So we are just going to pay this 180 and get it over with. Yeah.
And then make sure that we're on top of all the paperwork and stuff after that, because I can't do this again. This is ridiculous.
You would think that there'd be a bunch of people in there just agreeing with it, but like the thing that makes this slow too is about 90% of the people in there fight it. 90% of the people in there are like, this is bullshit. And they're trying to explain their way out of it or make up an excuse. And 90% of the time they lose. Something to eat.
No, it's stuck in my teeth. I think there's a brand of buffer.
Alright, y'all. That's pretty much it. Hope you learned something from this experience. See y'all Sunday.
Peace. Say bye.
Bye.
And y'all can really learn. I hope y'all learned something here. The lesson here is this: you don't go to school, that's what can happen to you. And this was released back in 2014, almost a year before the new truancy law was added. We'll look at that in our second look. You're about to meet somebody who says that if you snitch on if you tell a cop something on somebody, that you're a snitch. Next, Anderson Cooper looks into the word "stop snitching," and you're about to meet a man who might well snitch on the cops. And you also meet a man who has a whole different meaning to the word "stop snitching." Please stay with us. Welcome back. In most communities, if you see something, you tell police everything that happened. But in other communities, that person is called a snitch. We've all heard the word snitch before. Like, I was in school one day and I heard this funny phrase, snitches get stitches. But there was another one that kind of got me funny. Snitches get stitches and end up in ditches and get beaten up by bitches. That was a friend's joke. But you can find the phrase stop snitching in anywhere, from rap music videos to even t-shirts and swag. Tonight we're going to tell you all about stop snitching, and you're also going to meet some people who probably snitched on the police. And every other community's message is, hey, don't tell the police anything, or don't become an informant for the police, otherwise this and that can happen to you. It's like what's organized crime. You say you snitch on me, and then something bad will happen. And that's exactly what happened. So, what is stop snitching? Here's Anderson Cooper.
Stop the snitching.
And keep your mouth closed, man. Kill all rats, man. I'm from with police.
The message appears in hip-hop videos, on t-shirts, websites, album covers, and street murals. Well-known rappers talk about it endlessly on DVDs. It's a simple message heard in African-American communities across the country. Don't talk to the police.
When I was growing up, kids used to talk about snitching. It never extended as a cultural norm outside of the gangsters. It was not for regular citizens. It is now a cultural norm that is being preached in poor communities.
Jeffrey Canada is a nationally recognized educator and anti-violence advocate who's been working with children in Harlem for more than 20 years.
Everything's all right?
He grew up poor in a tough New York neighborhood. It says the message kids are getting today is very different and dangerous.
People are walking around with shirts. People are going out making music. People are saying things that if you're a snitch, it's like being an Uncle Tom was when I was growing up. It's like you can't be a black person if you have a set of values that say, I will not watch crime happen in my community without getting involved to stop it.
This slogan, this stop snitching, it now extends to rape, robbery, murder, really any crime.
Any crime, it's like we're saying to the criminals, you can have our community. Just have our community. Do anything you want, and we will either deal with it ourselves or we'll simply ignore it.
Canada could no longer ignore it on February 5th, 2006, when Israel Ramirez, a student he'd mentored and loved like a son, was shot to death outside a soundstage in Brooklyn.
That should bring
Hey, yo,
it
Swizzy.
Ramirez was working as a bodyguard for the rap star Busta Rhymes, who was making this music video. A person who was there told us Ramirez was shot in front of Busta Rhymes. He died at the scene 2 days before his 29th birthday, leaving a wife and 3 children behind.
I just think of him being shot, falling down, probably thinking this might be it. And I just wonder who held his hand, who caressed his head, who told him, I'm going to be here, who stayed with him, who made sure this man just didn't die alone for nothing.
New York City Police Commissioner Ray Kelly says there were at least 25 people who may have witnessed the shooting.
How many people have come forward to testify?
Nobody has come forward to testify. No one. The people that we've located either were inside and didn't see anything, or you'll get a version of, I have to work in this business. Ask Busta Rhymes what happened.
The police would like to ask Busta Rhymes what happened, but even though he talked vaguely about the killing on this TV show,
A situation transpired that none of us wanted.
he's refused to talk to police or to us.
Now I'm back with the remix.
Jeffrey Canada believes it's because Busta Rhymes doesn't want to jeopardize sales of his music in videos like this one. Canada says being labeled a snitch might have damaged Busta Rhymes' street cred.
One of the things that sells music is when the artist is looked at as someone who's come up from the streets, not just any streets, but the toughest, meanest streets of the urban ghetto. And that's called street credibility.
Hey, yo, what up, Izzy? You know we had to finish this video, right?
Busta Rhymes put this tribute to Israel Ramirez on the video he was making when Ramirez was killed.
Just wanted to make sure that people see this so they know that you ain't dying in vain. Love you and I miss you, homie. Oh, We made you proud.
I think that's hard. I ask you, Buster, as a man, if that was your son and you watched someone kill your son, would you remain quiet or would you get justice for your son? This is murder. This is murder. This is watching someone get murdered. How do we walk away from this?
The truth is, people have been walking away for years. In 1996, rapper Tupac Shakur was gunned down in Las Vegas. The crime remains unsolved. So does the 1997 shooting of the rapper Notorious B.I.G.
You can see our scar here.
That's where you were shot.
Yeah.
Rap star Cameron Giles, known as Cameron or Killa Cam, got shot in both arms in 2005. The shooting occurred in front of members of Cameron's entourage, but to this day, neither they nor he have cooperated with police.
Why? Because the type of business I'm in, it would definitely hurt my business. And the way that I was raised, I just don't do that. I was raised differently, not to tell.
If I was shot, I would want to know who did it. I would want the guy to get caught.
But then again, you're not going to be on the stage tonight in the middle of, let's say, Raleigh, Durham, North Carolina, with people with gold and platinum teeth and dreadlocks jumping up and down singing your songs either. You know what I'm saying? We're in two different lines of business.
So for you, it's really about business.
It's about business, but it's still also a code of ethics.
Is there any situation where you think it's okay to talk to the police?
Yeah, definitely. Say hello, how you feel, everything all right, period.
That's it.
There's nothing really to talk about with the police. I mean, for what?
If there's a serial killer living next door to you, though, and you know that person is, killing people, would you be a snitch if you called police and told them?
If I knew the serial killer was living next door to me?
Yeah.
No, I wouldn't call and tell anybody on him, but I'll probably move, but I'm not gonna call and be like, the serial killer's in 4-8. The serial killer's in 4-8. No, I was gonna drive. How you gonna be there?
If you think Cameron's kidding, he's not. Maintaining street cred sells records. Just watch his movie, Kill a Season, or his rap videos, and you'll quickly learn about his drug-dealing past. He wears it as proudly as his jeweled chains. In this recent video, which was viewed more than 1 million times on YouTube, Cameron engages in what's become a standard attack on a competitor rapper's brand. He accuses rapper 50 Cent, whose real name is Curtis Jackson, of being a snitch for allegedly cooperating with a police investigation.
He ran from police. You run with police. You don't need someone destroying you when your own people are the worst messengers possible. And this is what black people in America have not come to grips with. If we had a bunch of people in robes saying this stuff, there would be a movement all over America to shut this thing down. And it's young black millionaires we're doing that.
You're a millionaire?
Yes, sir.
Drive a Lamborghini?
A couple.
Couple.
On the streets of Harlem, Cameron is idolized. A few years ago, when he started wearing pink clothing, kids in inner city schools across the country started wearing it too.
Whatever they dish out, we eat it up. They could dish out the nastiest thing in the world. We still would eat it up.
If the rappers are teachers, what are they teaching you?
Don't back down from a fight, get money, hold your own, mind your business, don't snitch, look fresh. But yeah, that's what they're telling us.
We met Alex, Victoria, Derek, Darnell, and Tess through a church-based organization called Youth Turn. They're 14 through 19 years old and told us the Stop Snitching code doesn't just apply to rappers.
A snitch is a tattletale, a rat, somebody who goes around telling other people's business instead of minding their own.
And do you believe it?
Yes.
Anybody who comes forward and talks to the police about something they witnessed, a murder or a crime, are they a snitch?
Yes, it's a crime, remember, in our community to snitch.
Most of these kids had witnessed at least one violent crime, but had not helped the police identify the culprits. Victoria saw someone get shot a few years ago. She says she was scared to talk to the police then, and she wouldn't identify the shooter if the same thing happened today.
Why?
Because that's the rules.
Those rules are making it much harder for the police to catch killers, according to Professor David Kennedy of the John Jay College of Criminal Justice. Kennedy works with communities and police departments all over the country. Nationwide, he says, police are able to arrest a suspect in about 60% of the homicide cases they investigate. That's known as the clearance rate. But Kennedy says in some neighborhoods the rate is much, much lower.
I work in communities where the clearance rate for homicides has gone into single digits.
Single digits.
Single digits. And this is what's driving it.
Because people just aren't coming forward.
That's correct.
What does it say about what's happening in a community that if you come forward, you lose status in that community?
In these neighborhoods, we are on the verge of, or maybe we already have lost the rule of law.
The snitching credo is not just a product of hip-hop music, he says, nor are people simply afraid to come forward. As Professor Kennedy sees it, and as Cameron portrays it in this movie, the root cause is a long-standing belief that law enforcement is the enemy. Kennedy says that's partly because of police tactics used to fight the war on drugs.
Alex, do you trust the police?
No.
Why not?
Because it's been numerous times I've been walking, just being a regular American citizen, and I'm getting stopped for no reason.
Is it possible that people aren't coming forward to talk to the police not because of what rappers are saying, but just because they don't trust the police?
Sure, there's always going to be an element that not happy with what the police do. But I think the difference here is the commercialization, if you will, of Don't Snitch, the glorification of it.
It's that sort of edgy, kind of ghetto, everybody's kind of into it. It does package well and it does sell well. And beneath all of this stuff, there's huge corporate profits in the industries that feed off of this.
Many of the big-name rappers who rail against snitches are distributed on major record labels. Cameron is distributed through Asylum Records, a division of Warner Music. When the rapper Lil' Kim committed perjury rather than implicate members of her entourage in a shooting, Black Entertainment Television launched one of its most popular shows ever, chronicling her days before going to prison.
Black Entertainment TV ran a reality series about her that was advertised with the tagline, "She's going to prison with her mouth shut and her head held high." This is a Joe Camel issue. This is big business selling death.
Black Entertainment Television has said its series on Lil' Kim did not condone her crime, but rather took a very serious look at her life and her choices. As for Cameron's relationship with Warner Music, an executive there declined to comment.
I dare any of those executives in major companies to put one of those songs on in a board meeting. I dare them. They'd never do it. You put on some song that has the N-word 50 times, that talks about killing and murder. Oh no, board members don't want to hear that kind of stuff.
I just think that rap takes way more slack than the video games and the movies. We don't make guns. Smith & Wesson makes guns. Like, white people make guns and bullets, and all we're doing is rhyming and putting words together.
If your record label said to you, look, we're not going to promote you, we're not going to distribute you if you keep calling Curtis Jackson a snitch, or you keep writing about guns and selling drugs, would you stop?
No record company in the world would say, we're not promoting if you keep calling somebody a snitch. They know what makes money. A record company would never be that stupid, ever.
Record company would not be that stupid. Look, now we have songs all about there's not just country songs out there, good country songs. I mean, there's songs that have the N-word in it, like, N-word this, N-word that. Drugs, violence. We have songs all about drugs and violence, and record companies are just not promoting it because probably not about snitching. All right, we're gonna take a break. We'll be right back. Over 30 years ago, if you were one of the victims or witnesses that witnessed accidents happen because of tires, you may have been falling for a settlement by Firestone, the company that makes those tires, and it did not issue a recall until 11 years later. That was back in 1992. But is it hush money? One of the people that accepted the settlement, which you were about to meet, she said that she knew all along until Firestone did not know. But was it too late? Or did she accept the hush money to keep everything quiet? Here's Dan Rather.
If the covering up and the lying and the had not occurred, if the truth had been exposed sooner, my husband would still be here.
Mrs. Touchton's husband, the Reverend Bill Touchton, used to be the preacher at the Wingate Baptist Church in Jacksonville. This past July 2nd, he gave his last sermon here.
So I invite you, Lord Jesus, into this building, that we would see your grace, that we would hear your voice.
The next day on Interstate 95, while Reverend Touchton was a passenger in a friend's Ford Explorer, the tread on the left rear Firestone ATX tire sheared off. The rest of the tire remained inflated. The SUV fishtailed before it flipped over several times, killing Touchton instantly.
It's really not describable. I mean, it's not, there's no way to put it in the words that would help you understand it, because it's like half of your very soul has been ripped out.
Mrs. Touchton is suing both Bridgestone Firestone and Ford, claiming the companies are responsible for her husband's death.
Lives can be saved in this process of what I'm doing, and that's my purpose, is to help to see that lives are being saved and that the truth is being exposed.
Incredibly, it was in 1992, 8 years before the Reverend Touchton died, that the first lawsuits were filed blaming accidents on the same problem, tread separations on Firestone tires. Since then, we've been told nearly 200 lawsuits have been filed. But until now, virtually everything about the suits, including tens of thousands of documents examined by lawyers, has remained a secret, shielded from public view. Kim Van Etten's son Daniel, a football player at the University of West Virginia, was killed in a tread separation accident in 1997. Tell me about how you decided to sue and why you decided to sue.
Well, the trooper they called me on the phone and told me this in the middle of the night that Danny had died, which was hard, and he kept telling me that there was something wrong with the tire.
A year and a half after she sued, Mrs. Van Etten settled with Firestone and Ford behind closed doors. So let me ask you, you got a settlement, a monetary settlement. How much was it?
I'm not allowed to state.
But even now, you can't tell me how much
No.
it was? That was the agreement?
Right.
You agreed to secrecy.
Of the financial part of it, yes.
Anything else?
Well, they sealed some documents, but I have no idea what's in them.
In fact, many internal Firestone documents, like this one, were sealed in Mrs. Van Etten's case, and in other cases too, under what's known as, quote, protective orders, secrecy agreements. Plaintiffs' lawyers have to sign them before a company agrees to turn any documents over. Firestone declined our request for an interview about the lawsuits and these protective orders, but in a Senate hearing, a Firestone Executive Vice President, Gary Krieger, testified the company needed to keep the documents secret for what he called competitive reasons.
My understanding is that the confidentiality orders applied only to trade secret and formulations and these kinds of matters. And of course the judge had to agree that those were trade secrets or industry trade secrets. In reviewing the cases, no, there was nothing to indicate that there was a tire defect.
But plaintiffs' lawyers say Firestone has been sealing documents for years that relate directly to safety issues. For example, this document from Mrs. Van Etten's suit shows that more than 1,400 tires made at a Firestone plant in Wilson, North Carolina, were returned by consumers in 1992, 8 years before the company recalled, because of belt separations or suspected belt separations. The data in the document comes from sealed Firestone documents that were provided to Roe Brogdon, Mrs. Van Etten's lawyer. In this particular case, did you or did you not see documents and information that indicated there were serious problems with Firestone tires, especially on Explorer vehicles?
Out of the Wilson plant, certainly.
The tire that shredded in the accident that killed Mrs. Van Etten's son came from the Wilson plant, and tires that figure in at least 22 other lawsuits also came from Wilson. Based on what you know about the case, what did Firestone know and when did they know it?
They knew it in the early 90s. They knew what their problems were.
They let it go. They put quantity over quality.
There's no doubt in your mind that that's a fact.
Yes.
Those things are facts.
No doubt.
Brogdon can talk about the document on the Wilson plant only because CBS News and some other news organizations petitioned a judge to unseal it. Brogdon says there are many other documents that are still sealed that he cannot talk about. Tell me what you saw.
I cannot.
What do you mean you cannot?
Well, I cannot at this time speak to specific protected documents.
What would happen to you if you did?
I would probably be held in contempt of court.
All the time Brogdon says he had this information about Firestone tires, the federal government says it was kept in the dark about the possible safety problem. Dr. Sue Bailey says her agency should have been informed a lot sooner. She is the new administrator in charge of the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, or NHTSA. The first known death linked to the Firestone tire problem was in 1992. When did you or anyone in the federal government first find out about the possibility of a problem?
It was not really until the end of last year that we began to see the numbers increasing.
If a company knows that they're receiving an inordinate number of complaints about the safety of a product, and at the same time they're settling a large number of lawsuits, my question is, are they obligated legally to let you know that?
They are not obligated at this time to let us know that.
Did Firestone at any time indicate to the agency in any way that they were having these problems?
They did not inform us of the large number of claims or the lawsuits.
Dr. Bailey is now urging Congress to pass legislation that would pressure companies to get that information to her agency earlier. And the former head of NHTSA, Joan Claybrook, now the president of the consumer organization Public Citizen, has told Congress protective orders should be abolished.
Well, first of all, I do believe that the gag orders kept this information secret inappropriately and resulted in the death and injury of lots of people. I think these orders are unethical. I think, among other things, the American Bar Association ought to declare them as unethical.
A Bar Association task force has been looking into these questions. The committee was headed by Lorna Schofield, a corporate attorney. She says companies need protective orders to defend themselves, especially when plaintiffs' lawyers demand to see vast numbers of corporate documents.
Sometimes it's just a matter of a plaintiff's lawyer finding some sexy document that would be interesting to the media, not necessarily relevant to public safety, and it's really used as a threat sometimes. They try to get settlements. In a sense, they sometimes try to coerce or blackmail corporations into settling just to save them embarrassment.
In her case, Kim Van Etten says she had no choice but to get a protective order and agree to secrecy. The alternative was to face a long, painful, and emotionally draining court battle.
It was killing me. And they said it could be 6 years, and I said, I can't do anymore. I said, I'm going downstairs, you guys do what you want. I said, but I'm done with this. I can't go on anymore.
Did you realize at the time that, in effect, by sealing these documents, information was being kept secret that might eventually save people's lives or keep them from being injured?
To be honest with you, I didn't think about that. You know, until things started happening afterwards, you know. But it's so very hard when you're dealing with the death of your son that you almost would do anything just not to have to deal with it anymore.
Mrs. Van Etten says she had her lawyer, wrote Brogdon, deal with the legal arrangements and sign the protective order.
I made an agreement in order to prove my client's case.
But as the counselor for the plaintiff, what if you say, you know, I have a feeling that there are matters of public safety involved in some of these documents, so I'm not going to make this agreement.
Then typically you're not going to get any place. Now you can spend maybe 2 years litigating over that point, but are you doing what's best for your client? And I'm not saying what's best for your client and what's adverse for America. I'm saying your job as a lawyer is to prosecute and win that case. And that's where your mind better be and your focus better be.
get the evidence, prove the case, but the public can't know about it.
Well, the problem is, if you spend all your time doing that, you're never going to prove the case for your client. You're fighting two battles. You cannot afford, if you're going to win, to fight those two different battles.
There's a matter of intense public safety involved,
Right.
and the public doesn't get to know.
Right.
And for his efforts, Attorney Brogdon was paid quite handsomely. Lorna Schofield says protective orders move cases along a lot faster for lawyers who sue companies like Firestone and who get a percentage of every settlement. Tell me why I or any other citizen should not believe the defendant's lawyers, the plaintiff's lawyers, and the victims in these cases all benefit from the present system, but the only people who really lose as a general rule wind up being the general public. Is that a valid argument?
I don't agree at all, and I think the problem with the argument is that it asks too much of the justice system. The purpose of civil cases is for a private party to settle its dispute with another private party and to get money for its injury. That's what the system is designed to do. It's not designed to publicize all of the ills in our society or improper products that have been manufactured. That's the job of other parts of the government and other regulatory agencies. That is not the job of the courts.
Recently, Kim Van Etten has been having second thoughts about this secrecy agreement that helped her win a big settlement with Firestone. She says she's been thinking about the people who died after her son in accidents involving Firestone tires.
I literally, I'm telling you, I felt like I killed those people. And in all honesty, I do have a hand in it, and I'll have to answer to it sometime in my life or after my life.
But why do you feel that way? I think people watching, listening would say, well, listen, you don't have anything to answer for. Ford and Firestone, my niece. Yes, you do? Tell me about that. But what do you feel you have to answer for?
Because even though I didn't know that things were in there, a lot of people died. And if I said no and went those 6 years and got strong instead of crying, and they wouldn't be dead.
Sorry about that. It's hush money, that's what it is. It's why people get to settle things out of court. That way, you won't know what's going on. We're going to take another break. We'll be right back. Now on to another Firestone story. Could you ever imagine being one of the customers of Firestone, one of the employees? You knew you had a problem, but you failed to act and you let it happen. As we're about to show you, cases are getting high, lawsuits are happening. Firestone is now investigating Ford. You find Firestone tires everywhere, in SUVs and trucks. Let's take you out of Venezuela where it's all happening. Here's Ed Bradley.
Here in this one junkyard outside Caracas, we found 7 Ford Explorers that had been involved in major accidents. All of them were equipped with Firestone tires. In all of the accidents, the stories were similar. The driver hears a sudden loud pop in one of the tires and starts to lose control of the Explorer as it slides across the highway, eventually rolling over several times, causing death or injury to the people inside. That is exactly what happened to Antonio and Mira David and their 3 children as they were driving along a highway 7 months ago in their Ford Explorer.
We had an explosion and, in seconds, the Explorer started to roll over. My 3 kids, I found them out of the Explorer.
The David's oldest child, Sumaya, suffered minor injuries. Their 9-year-old daughter, Jessica, died instantly. And their 4-year-old son, Antonio Jose, was rushed to the hospital where he too died.
I arrived at the hospital and they told me what had happened. I said, an accident. They said, what kind of car were you driving? That's the first question they asked me.
Yeah.
I saw an Explorer, Ford Explorer. I said, oh my God, you could not imagine how many accidents had happened with these cars. Why couldn't we hear about that before?
The fact is, they could have heard about it before. Firestone and Ford knew they had a serious problem on their hands. According to an undated and unsigned Ford memo submitted by them to a congressional committee, the company acknowledged that it was aware in July of '97 that Explorers in Venezuela would turn over unexpectedly as a consequence of a tire explosion. And in 1999, knowing that they had a problem in Venezuela, Firestone and Ford conducted a joint review and found that accidents in Ford Explorers with Firestone tires caused 15 fatalities and 35 injuries, and that the root cause was determined to be tread separation of the tires. What is tire tread separation and how does it happen?
This problem starts at the belt edges, and these sharp wires at the belt edge chew away at the rubber.
Richard Baumgartner is a retired Firestone engineer and an expert witness on behalf of dozens of victims who've been hurt or killed in Ford Explorers equipped with Firestone tires. He says tire tread separation is like cancer, a deadly disease in the tire that often goes undetected until it's too late.
And as you're driving back and forth to work or to the store, this separation will continue to grow and grow and grow. Then at some time, unfortunately, this large separation, which has been developing without your knowledge, will suddenly break loose. And at the same time, the tire loses its cornering ability, and when you try to get back, it is like trying to get back when you're driving on ice.
Baumgartner has examined more than 60 Firestone tires made in Venezuela and the United States, which have been involved in Explorer accidents.
And of the tires we've examined, over half of these result in fatalities, and the rest result in serious accidents.
Venezuelan government officials say that the accidents here and in the United States could have been prevented. One of those saying that is Samuel Ru Rios, head of Venezuela's Consumer Protection Agency, which is seeking charges of reckless homicide against executives of Ford and Firestone.
They knew long ago what was causing the accidents, and they failed to notify consumers or users. At least 80 to 90% of the accidents could have been prevented.
That's a strong accusation. I mean, you're saying they knew about it and could have prevented it.
They can't deny it. They can't deny it. They knew their vehicles were rolling over, and this was causing death.
What does Bridgestone Firestone have to say about that? We talked to Jorge Gonzalez, who runs Firestone in Venezuela.
The Venezuelan government is seeking criminal charges against you personally, as well as other officials at Ford and at Firestone. They say that you committed reckless homicide. How do you respond to that?
No, we do not believe this is the case. We act always in a responsible manner.
Well, they're saying you didn't. They're saying that you knew that you had a problem and that you didn't address it in a timely manner.
Once all the facts are known, I think we will prevail.
What is most troubling to Venezuelan government investigators is that once Firestone and Ford became aware of the problem, rather than ordering a costly recall, they decided to add what is called a nylon cap ply, a fifth layer of added protection in new tires intended to prevent tread separation and other hazards. But even that wasn't accomplished. When investigators examined these tires taken from Firestone's Venezuelan plant, they found that the new nylon cap was not added. What's more, they say Firestone intentionally stamped a label on the tires indicating that the safety precaution had been taken, when in fact it hadn't.
They claim the tire had a safety cap. The clearest proof is when we cut open the tire, labeled with 5 layers, it turned out to have only 4 layers. This means they lied shamelessly.
Firestone has acknowledged that thousands of tires it made for Ford in Venezuela were mislabeled, but they say it was an inadvertent and insignificant mistake.
What happened was there was a mistake that was never caught, and in no way, shape, or form did this stamping error compromise either the integrity nor the quality of the tire.
But how could the mistake be insignificant if Firestone and Ford agreed that the nylon cap would make that tire safer. Doesn't that indicate that by making this change, you're trying to solve a problem?
By making this change, we were trying to improve our product, which is a continuous ongoing project within our company. We always try to give the best, the safest tire possible.
You have quality control with Firestone, Venezuela. So how can you have quality control and you stamp these tires as having this nylon safety cap when in fact they don't?
Okay, because this is one of the issues that is regrettable.
It's Firestone's position that the nylon cap is used only to allow drivers to go at higher speeds more safely, and the company insists there is nothing unsafe about any of its tires made in Venezuela, including the mislabeled ones.
Do you think that that regrettable mistake caused accidents?
No, sir.
Caused no injuries?
No.
Caused no deaths?
No.
Firestone has maintained that the only tires that are defective were ones manufactured at their plant in Decatur, Illinois. But Richard Baumgartner showed us 3 Firestone tires which were involved in major accidents on Ford Explorers. They were manufactured at company plants in Venezuela, Wilson, North Carolina, as well as Decatur. They all showed similar patterns of tread separation.
Each of them is identical in the way they failed. They peeled in between the inner and outer steel belts. There are no punctures in the tire. There are no evidence that the tires were running flat. There's all indications that these tires were just running under normal conditions, well maintained, and the treads came off.
Could this be a coincidence, or do you believe that the tire itself is defective, regardless of where it came from?
I believe the tire itself is defective regardless of where it came from because of this tendency to cause these fatal accidents.
Firestone officials in Venezuela say if there is a fatal defect, it's in the Ford Explorer, that other manufacturers' SUVs that are equipped with Firestone tires have not had rollover accidents. What's more, Firestone says Ford ignored its recommendation that the tires on the Explorer be inflated to 32 pounds of air pressure. Instead, Ford told its customers to inflate their tires to 28 pounds. While Firestone is blaming Ford and Ford officials have blamed Firestone, the Venezuelan Consumer Protection Agency concluded that both companies worked in what they call a lethal combination to conceal the truth from the public. That's the same conclusion reached by corporate attorney Franklin Howitt, who is bringing a massive class action lawsuit against Firestone and Ford.
It's a scandal. It's terrible. It's amazing what they did in Venezuela.
Ironically, for 30 years, Franklin Howitt represented both Firestone and Ford in nearly all of their Venezuelan business matters. That was until his own daughter Claudia and his son-in-law Eduardo were driving in this Ford Explorer 2 years ago when the tread on their Firestone tires suddenly separated, causing the vehicle to roll over. Eduardo was in a coma for 3 months and now has permanent brain damage which affects his speech.
Well, I look at this and I'm amazed that you survived.
Yes, me too.
So you're disappointed in Ford?
Very disappointed in Ford.
Because we trusted him. We trusted them.
I couldn't believe that it was a defective problem and that they never advised, they never warned the people. It was a total conspiracy. They have hidden information. They knew it.
Ford and Firestone's conduct in Venezuela is a central issue in dozens of lawsuits being filed in the United States by Mississippi attorney Paul Miner, who with the help of Franklin Howitt has been gathering information in Venezuela about what both companies knew and when they knew it.
Ford and Firestone cannot deny that information that was developed in this country 3 years ago put them on actual notice that the tread of the tires were separating, the Ford Explorers were rolling over. They concealed the material facts from families here in Venezuela so that families in the United States and the United States authorities would not go into uproar.
So you're saying that based on what they knew and when they knew it, that accidents that took place in California and Mississippi and other parts of the United States could have been prevented?
Absolutely.
Firestone and Ford officials both say they don't yet know exactly what is causing all these accidents. But officials have said that poor maintenance and driver negligence may be key factors. That suggestion is hard to swallow for Antonio and Mira David, who lost 2 of their children in a rollover crash.
What they're saying is that you were negligent.
Yeah, we heard that. It's true. I'm negligent, but you know why I'm negligent? Because I trust in Ford and Firestone.
The Venezuela Consumer Protection Agency recently reported that 37 people have died since August in rollover accidents involving the Ford Explorer, after Ford refitted most of its Explorers in Venezuela with Goodyear tires. The agency is seeking to ban the sale of Ford Explorers in Venezuela.
Wow. Be careful what tires you put on, otherwise you could be in for a real bumpy ride. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back.
How could more than 100 people...
Coming up on Give Me a Break Tuesday, coming up next week on the broadcast, another Ford story. All about the damage control happening. How Ford hid its deadly scandal from the American public. And also the concealed information all about the stuff that's happening at Ford. What did Ford knew? And did they know it before it became too late? That's next week. Alright. Now it's time for tonight's viral break. Would you ever imagine your father making you whoop your sibling? No. Did you ever imagine being too big for an ass whooping?
Catch the bell with one arm just...
Well, tonight's viral break, it shows the story of Tim getting whooped.
There's 3 things in life you never forget. Your first kiss, your first, well, you know, first time jumping on a bed. Come on, my guy, get your mind at the gutter. And the last ass whooping of your life. See, they say there's no such thing as a bad kid, in which I sort of agree, because we're all a product of our environment. But come on, my guy, there is such thing as bad parents, and there's no debate. Bad parenting results in badass kids. Simply put, if you grow up in a non-disciplined household, odds are you're gonna lack self-discipline. But I'll read the comments. Some people say physical punishments are necessary, while others say it's all abuse. All I'm saying is, it worked for me. See, pain is a proven and significant deterrent. For example, your mother warns you not to touch the hot stove, but you don't listen because you're a kid. So you touch it, and your ass is on fire, thereby learning to never touch a hot stove. Pain. Now, on the contrary, we have time out. You get in trouble, your parents sends you to your room, and you get to chill and watch the hub all night, my guy, with no interruptions. Woo-hoo! Sounds like the dream. See, success is a product of the 3 Ds: determination, dedication, and discipline. But the choice is yours. You either suffer the pain of discipline or suffer the pain of regret. Which brings us to the main question. At what age are you too old for an ass whooping? And that, my guy, is where this story begins. So for this story, I'm gonna take you back to the last ass whooping of my life. So one night your boy was chilling at the crib. Now this was a Friday night, right after our school football game. Now as usual, after the game,
Nature sure is full of wonders. Red Bull gives you wings.
go back to the crib and call it a night. But not this beautiful night. See, while attending the game, your boy was shooting his shots on this nice little shorty. Gee, now, ooh, wait, baby. Bad. From the tips of your toes to the depths of your soul. What you doing later? Oh, nothing? Check this out, girl. I got a twin-size bed, some ramen noodles, and this dirt. You should come over. I don't know. Look, I don't really say this to any girl, but I really like you. Really? Not when you drop that L word in high school. Like, guys, not love. Shorties be feeling you. So, since this was my lucky night, my girl Gina decides to let your boy get some play. So we slid over to the crib, got outside, but before entering the house, I had to hit Gina with the G code. Okay, Gina, I gotta go inside and check if my parents are asleep, okay? Okay. Now, if you ever snuck into the crib, you know you gotta be on your James Bondish. So first thing, I gently open the back window. Okay, cool. Coast is clear. Then I enter the crib all while tiptoeing to my parents' room. So I took a good look inside my parents' room, and with my luck, I find my mom and dad asleep. Yes, that's what I'm talking about. It's about to be lit. You got. So I got back outside to get my girl Gina. Psst, Gina, we're good, girl, but just be discreet, okay? Okay. So we get inside the house and start discreetly ascending towards my room. But then I noticed we got a little situation. See, at the time, my parents had just switched the flooring from carpet to hardwood floors. Now, if you know anything about upstairs hardwood floors, you know they give a little noise. Gina, you gotta take your shoes off. Why? Just trust me. So Gina and I proceed to take our shoes off, and we continue to sneak into my room. So we get inside, lock the door. Phew, we did it, girl. So, what are you gonna do? So I looked deep into Gina's eye, moved slowly towards her, and followed the 90-10 rule by moving 90% in, all while letting her come the remaining 10%. Our lips touched and gave her a kiss to blow her mind. Wow, Tim, that was incredible. You're a great kisser. Well, you know, I know a little something. Now, it was time for the second base. All right, Tim, everything's going according to plan. Gina's down, room's locked. Let's go for the home run. But before getting to the action, I heard some noise coming from the kitchen. Gina, did you hear that? Hear what? Shh. Oh, man, I think someone's in the kitchen. We gotta be quiet. Oh, man, I sure was thirsty. Wait a minute. Or those? Then I heard footsteps coming towards my room. Oh, no. Dear God, please don't let anyone walk into this room, please. Then I heard, oh, shit. Okay, Tim, play sleep. Don't open the door. Once again, I heard a knock on the door. Damn, what do? If I make Gina hide under the bed, whoever's outside's gonna hear us move. Okay, I'll just keep playing sleep. Then I heard the lock on the door being opened from the outside. Oh my God. So I slowly put Gina inside the large comforter and played sleep. A few moments later, the door opens and I hear someone getting closer to the side of my bed. Okay, Tim, start snoring and play dead sleep. So I start snoring. Boy, do you think I'm stupid? Don't you dare open your eyes, boy. Tim, I'm not going to ask you again. Yo, I'm calm. What do I do? So I open my eyes, and to my surprise, my pops is holding Gina's shoes with his hands. Nigga, this girl left her shoes on the stairway. Young lady, you need to leave now. Yes, sir. So Gina gets the stuff and dips. Bye, Tim. Now here we are, me and my pops, and Men's is ready to beat my ass. You already know what time it is. Drop those pants. No. What? I said no. Oh, you're bad now. See, in life, there comes a time when a boy finally becomes a man, thereby standing up for himself for the first time. Dad, you're not going to whoop me. Oh, is that right? You're telling me what I'm going to do in my house. See, what my pops didn't know is I've been waiting for this moment my whole life. Your boy's been hitting them weights for this moment, and the whooping stops today. See, I was no longer that scrawny little kid. Oh no, my guy, I'm that nigga. And it's time my pop put some respect to my name. So I looked dead at my pops and thought, you know what? I could stand toe-to-toe with my pops. Now, since I wasn't going to make the first move, I got into my three-point defense stance. So my pop looks dead at me and swings the shit out of that belt. Blood, like I said, I'm that nigga. So I catch the belt with one arm just to show my pops, your boy's about that action. See, the days of looking up to my dad were long gone, and my pops knew it. Now, we're face to face, eye to eye, chest to chest, man to man. Okay, son, so you now a man. Yep. Oh, okay. Then we're gonna have to change some rules. Yeah, it's about time. First, rent's due on the first of the month. What? Oh yeah, you're a man now, right? Then you've got the water bill, heat bill, cable bill, electricity bill, insurance bill, phone bill. Hold up, Pops. I don't know about all that. Oh, you're a man now, right? Yeah, but what? I can't afford all that. Then drop those pants.
Boy, you out here sticking girls into my house? Got me thinking someone broke in? You even think before you act?
And there you have it, the last whooping of my life. So, moral of the story. A parent can only put you in the right path, but the final forming of a person's character lies within their hands. What's up, world? Thank you for joining your boy for another video.
And also, the moral of this story is, don't ever sneak a girl into your parents' house unless you pay the fucking rent. Another thing is, if your parents have rules saying no girls in the house while they're on vacation, don't have a girl over and never have a party at the house. Otherwise, you're gonna get your ass beat, or even then, grounding for life. That's all for this edition of Gaming Break Friday. We'll see you again for a second look Saturday with part 3 of Stupid in America. The same characters with the same shit. Follow us here at YouTube and Give Me a Break. Stop bullying, speak up. Concentration, not strength. No jaywalking. Good night.